I have done very little listing this week. I've been trying to organize my actual workspace, so it's kind of you know, 2 steps forward, 1 step back at all times. If I had like my own space and like say I walked into a blank slate, like I could literally get everything put together in a day. I'm very efficient organizing, but when I have limited space and then I'm working around a lot of things, it gets complicated. And so leading up to this week, the insane amount of listing I had done, I basically had to completely reshuffle everything around. I needed to make my shipping area more efficient because I was starting to ship more and more packages, and I was getting nervous that something was going to get broken. It was getting very frustrating trying to find the materials that I needed. And at some point you're working against yourself. So even though like I had big goals for this last week again, I had to sort of pump the brakes and do what needed to be done so that I can move forward at a more steady pace. I'm going to show you guys sort of what I'm working with right now. It is going to continue to evolve because I'm growing my inventory, but I will show you what I'm working with so far. I do want to note, because like a good example of how algorithms are affected by what you list on a regular basis, I think I listed somewhere around like 60 items in the last week, and the previous weeks to that, I think the week prior to that it was like 300 and something, 340 or something, and the week prior to that was like over 600. So last week the listings came to a fairly abrupt halt. Just refocusing on different areas, not even just with reselling. There were other things I needed to get caught up on too. But I'd built up to where I was selling somewhere between like 22 and 27 items between Friday night and Sunday night. This weekend I sold 6. So at some point I'll talk a lot about like algorithms and the different things that affect it, but it will always pretty much be, now it's definitely more complex than this, but I won't go down that rabbit hole right now. But it'll pretty much always be that the number of items you list and the consistency of your listings is going to be like the number one thing that affects your algorithms. So yeah, it was a hard decision because next week is the Highway 70 yard sale. And so I know I'm going to be picking items, which means I really wanted to get more listed, to get more out. And also I'm going to be, picking a lot next week. So it's going to be harder to list as much as I want. But sometimes you will find in reselling or business period that you have to make decisions for the long term that are not necessarily what your brain wants to do in the short term. So I do feel better. Even just walking down into this space is like a relief. So I do feel better. I'm a little like anxious about how behind I am on listings, but at this point it's just like you just got to go with it. Like there's not really anything you can do about that. So yeah, I'm going to turn the camera around. I'm going to show you guys what I have going on and show you a little bit of what I have planned. And then I'm going to start listing. Now I really should have done like a before and after. Not an enormous amount has changed, but it's the little things that make a difference at this point. I have like tons of experience working in restaurants, especially like small restaurants. and also like small vet clinics and daycares, places where organizational skills are incredibly important, efficiency is incredibly important. So my mind is constantly geared on how to make things like more efficient, and more organized, which go hand in hand. So one of the problems I was having is I had stuff under these tables, and so these two, I guess what they call haskets or something, were pulled out into the center here. So anytime I needed to get items to ship, I was having to sort of reach down underneath or like climb up on top of them to get to like the top shelves. And it was just not ideal. Not to mention that shipping on like a soft surface is not ideal. So I was constantly trying to find like a hard surface. I was constantly losing my materials. And then also every time I can't breathe. Every time I got done listing things, like all those items would get sort of shuffled around, and then it would get so tedious trying to get them in their spaces that sometimes I would just be like, all right, I'm gonna have to sort it out tomorrow. And that's also not super ideal. The most efficient way to work for most things is that you start your starting point. You walk into sort of like a clean slate, or as clean as you can. You get your work done, utilizing the space however you need to. And then at the end of that work period, you can literally put everything back where it needs to go. You can put all the items you've listed exactly where they need to go. You can put all your things back where you need to go. And then that way, like, 2 or 3 times a week, if you need to wipe down surfaces, or you need to take like your trash out, or little things you need to do upkeep, it's pretty much always put back where it's supposed to be. Things get lost less that way. Things get broken less that way. You are faster at listing. You are faster at shipping. It seemed like, I understand the way my mind works, that oftentimes taking the time to organize that way seems like you're adding this whole other job and it's more work. But in reality, the more efficient you make your space, the less work you're doing and the happier you'll be. You don't have to be OCD. I can be OCD sometimes, so I don't want anybody to feel like everything has to be perfect, because even this is like much more organized than many resellers I've known, but even this is not where I'm headed. So find what you're comfortable with, find what works efficiently for you. But if you're ever feeling really overwhelmed and like you're working against yourself, 9 times out of 10, it's because it's just not organized in an efficient way. So I'll give you a rundown of some of the changes I made. So far, this is still here, which is kind of a secondary conversation that I tend to put carts before horses. And so I'll do all this extra work on things that have absolutely nothing to do with what my current like weekly or monthly goal is. And then I get exhausted and then I don't hit my weekly or monthly goals. So this was something I really wanted to do almost 2 months ago, but I had a little talk with myself, and this did not need to be done until right about now. This next week, this will get done. And what's going to go over here is I'm going to get 4 of the same like size bins with lids. I'm going to stack them, and it's going to be a rotating of 4 bins that have the 40 to 50 items inside that bin that I want to list each day, so that when I get up or when I'm ready to list, I take the top bin off and I walk it over to my space here and I pull the items out, and then I list the items, and then I put the items where they need to go. That bin will get filled with backstock inventory, and it'll essentially go at the bottom, and it'll just start you know, rotating. I was going to do a week because a week, you know, your mind automatically goes to like increments that are already sort of in place. But one, I don't want to try to put the new bin all the way at the bottom of 6 other bins. That just does not sound efficient or fun at all. And two, I was thinking, well, I go picking every week, especially on the weekends, and sometimes there are items that are like time sensitive or that are very valuable or what have you that I want to get listed like immediately. So I'm essentially leaving myself space and room to where midweek, if I get like several items I want to list, or over the weekend I get several items I want to list, then I'm not already like booked up for a whole week. Like I can start that within like 3 to 4 days. If that makes sense. This I still haven't figured out what I want to do with the shopping cart, but right now this is the purpose it's serving. One day I will start ordering the boxes of wrapping paper. I'm not there yet. One, I don't have the space for it. I literally have nowhere to put that. Two, I'm not spending a lot of money on extra packaging materials because I'm trying to be super efficient about reinvesting the money that I bring in and then saving money that I'm bringing in. So ordering large bulk shipping materials is not a priority for me right now. I'm pretty good at sourcing them and finding cheap options, so it's not going to save me enough to benefit what I'm attempting to do at the moment. But the cool thing about this is you can like actually pull them out like it's a tissue box. So, you know, like a Kleenex tissue box, usually the way it works, you're pulling from the middle up. So I just set it up like this, and then when I need it, I can just grab a couple pieces and pull it out from the center. So it works all right. This I cleared off because I am about to list probably in the next week, probably about 100 other blushes, which is about equal to 2 of these like clear bags. So this is just gonna be my plush shelf because I have plenty of plushes. So that went ahead and got cleared off because really there's nothing else I want to put up there because everything else is heavier or breakable. And if something's going to be on the top shelf, generally speaking, you want it to be the lightest stuff and the least breakable stuff. So this is a lot of my breakable items, and I try to like rotate wood and glass and plastic or like tin or that kind of thing so that we don't have too many glass pieces touching. But this is not ideal. I would much prefer having an entire shelving unit for breakables where everything is like fairly spaced out and orderly, because a lot of times the glass items are some of the more valuable items, and getting a little chip on something can ruin something that is like very high value. So I am super cautious. Like if I do need to get something off of this shelf, I am very delicate. I take my time, and if I want to put something on it, I'm very delicate and take my time. But yeah, in the future, this will be completely different. Then I got just different categories. These are sort of like we have extra breakables here that they're like quantity listings. Again, that's not ideal, but that's where it is right now. These are more like the odd shape things or the boxes or bulk items that are not toys or games, because all the toys and games are on the other side of this wall. So yeah, that's like, these things can't go in bins really, and it's also just kind of pointless to put some of these things in bins. So the only thing that can really go here is either bins or like a row of breakables, or basically what I've done here is like the boxed items and stuff like that. Just trying to maximize that space. This is still like all my smalls. This is a mixture of like figurines, wood, trinkets, like all the little tiny stuff. Most of them are in baggies, so they're ready to go. I do have a few that I need to baggy up. I would say probably like 60 or so. But it is like double layered, so behind these is a whole nother row of those. Then I have some more bins of miscellaneous. I did put like my books and media all the way down here. At some point, I would much prefer to like stick a bookshelf over here in this corner and have all my books and media right there, because books and media is not, a tub or a bin is not a good idea for books and media because they are heavy and there's a lot of them you can fit in there. So every time you're getting in there to find one book, you're having to pull multiple items out to find this one book. And it's not like, you know, these I can kind of see what's going on and I can like gently move things around and figure out where something is. Books, you have no idea where it is until you start unpacking it, and then you have to repack all the books. So it'd be really nice just to like walk up and take a book off the shelf, put it in a package and ship it. So that is definitely a goal that's probably, I would say, 2 to 3 weeks away, because I can get like a cheap Walmart bookshelf for like $30. They're literally like $34.78 or something. And it'll fit all my media right there. So yeah, that's pretty much what's in here. I'm not going to take you to the other side right now because one, it's still in transition, but two, it's raining outside. But that's pretty much, it's a lot like this, except it's all toys, men's shoes, board games, and that's pretty much all. It's pretty much toys and board games and one tub of shoes. Same concept though. There is a third shelving unit, probably in, I would say 2 to 4 weeks, depending on how much inventory I get this next week at the Highway 70 yard sale. There's a third shelving unit I'm going to try to clear off so that I can start really organizing, because it would just be, it would be so lovely to have everything in a place. It would be nice. So the idea is, this is all listed. Like everything here is listed. It's about $23,000 in inventory at this point. And then I have, I think, like another almost $3,000 on the other side of the wall. Because a lot of the toys aren't particularly valuable. But the idea is to pull from my back stock inventory, and I don't even really call it back stock. Like this is inventory I'm actively working on, because this is inventory I got to rebuild my business after I liquidated. So pull from that, get my bins, like where I have my 4 days lined up, so I know what I'm going to be working on. It's all prepped, cleaned, ready to go, as little thinking as possible. And then I pull out my items over here so that I can pull from the right, photograph them, set them here so I can keep going. And then once I get, I'm guessing probably every 10 to 15 items I get over here, I'm going to get up and I'm going to put those where they need to go, wherever that is, and then go back to listing. And part of that too, like I could sit here and do 40 or 50 at a time, but part of me doing all of this is also that I have really high anxiety when I'm trying to list. Like if I was, like I've done graphic design before, I've done more tedious things that don't require as much thinking, or even the things that I can get like consumed in math, or like something that can really fully draw my attention, but it's all basically connected to the same thing. I can sit for hours and it's soothing and I can do that. When it comes to a task where I'm like, every item is like different in its own way, and I have to handle it different, and it's like different categories, and it's just all different, then everything is distracting. Like, everything becomes harder. And what it is, part of what it is like when something's more tedious and you take some of the like abstract thinking out of it, then my brain can just go into like autopilot, and then all the other things going on in the background can just continue to work in the background in my head, you know, or even noises or whatever's going on. But when I'm having to like every single item do the tedious and the abstract thinking all at once, as simple as it seems to most people, for me, like, it literally gives me heart palpitations. Like, it is just so distracting. It's so overwhelming. So my point in all that is that every few I get done, I'm going to take that mental break. I'm going to get up, I'm going to sort, which I love sorting and organizing, take a deep breath, get a drink of water, sit back down, and do it again. That helps. I also turn off this big light when I'm doing it. I also have background noise, which I am going to look into getting me a pair of AirPods, because I am learning that if I make the background noise like all encompassing, like, and it drowns most other things out, then even if I'm sort of switching task, it doesn't bother me as much, because it's almost, I don't know how it activates my head. I don't know all that yet, even though I do plan on going into psychology. I'll learn one day, but it does something to the way that my mind is working, and it allows me to think more task-oriented, like individual task-oriented. So long story short, that is going to be that system. These were like pulled out in the middle. So this one would come out this way, and that's where my dog sits. And then this one would back out. So this was just completely full, and I had bins like under there. So it was just a hot mess. But I went with the sort of Japanese minimalism. You know, a lot of people, like in a lot of different countries, they have to live in really small apartments, and they have to have very high efficiency spaces. So I was like, let me see if I can tuck these under these things. And then I have like all this room for all these activities everywhere. And so that one went under there. That one fits pretty well. I'm going to have to get a thinner blanket. I have to make it fluffy because she likes fluffy blankets. But I'm going to have to get a thinner blanket. And this one will fit a little bit more efficiently. So when I'm not working on listing, or even if I want like a more active day where I'm standing up listing, like, I can leave them like this, which does happen sometimes. Sometimes I just need to be like standing up and moving, so I can list them this way. Or if I'm wanting to kind of get a whole bunch done and sit and chill, I can pull these out. My dog can sit in her spot. I can sit in my spot. And then when I'm done, I roll them back in their places, put all my stuff away. Everything's cleaned up and organized. And then also with them being tucked under here, I have room for shipping. Like, I have a hard surface for shipping packages, and the space to move around so that I can pull inventory that I need to ship. So that worked out. Then I did put together, like, I wanted to make 2 of these. I was trying to find like the cheapest way that was not cardboard, because cardboard is not going to hold up with the test of time at all, to make me like a little sorter, so I can like pull like real easily what I need. So this, because I got enough for like 2 of these, this cost about $7. So it's not great, but it's not horrible. Like, if I gotten it, like, try to make it out of wood, it would be really heavy. It wouldn't, like, I like that it's like got some give on the side, because then I can sort of over cram it a little bit, you know. And I don't have to worry about like it being so tight that like my packages get caught on one another, or my boxes get caught on one another. Like with the give, like when you're pulling items from here, it's naturally going to give you more space between the items. Anyways, this cost about $7. I got the little brackets. I got screws with little nuts, or really they're bolts with little nuts on the back, because that just seemed like it would work better. And then the cool thing is that this is all canvas, so if I get bored, you know, I can doodle. I do that a lot because I actually do my business coaching class right here on a Zoom, so a lot of times like I'm doodling like on something while I'm doing that. Anyways, added bonus, but it works pretty well. I know this doesn't seem like, this is not a lot of packaging for someone at my level. But I don't care because I source my packaging in a lot of different ways, which I did make a video about that. I hadn't like edited it yet, and then as I went back, like it was so long ago, like it just was so out of place that I just deleted it, and I decided I'm going to take y'all a different day and I'm going to do it over again because it was going to bother me. So I source my packaging in a lot of different ways. I get a lot of it for free. And I also tend to sell way more envelope packages and small items than I do packages that require bigger boxes. This, even on a busy week, this number of boxes with like these would probably get me through the week. I want to keep it that way because envelopes are cheaper. Boxes are more cumbersome. Boxes attract bugs. I don't know if y'all know that, but cockroaches love boxes. You learn that in the restaurant business. I don't like the way boxes feel. There are a lot of downsides to the boxes. I will use boxes. That's fine. We need boxes. I'm not somebody who's going to put something in an envelope that could potentially break just because I don't want to use a box. Some people do that, but I prefer items that go into envelopes. So this is plenty of space, especially in this space. Now, when I get where I'm trying to go, that will probably triple. Solely because, like, I at some point want to get to where I have different size boxes separated, different envelopes separated. So it'll probably be more like this area will be like all sorted different packaging. I did throw my bigger boxes here in this little nook. I didn't know what to do with that nook, and it turned out perfect. I got my trash can here. So all of that's close to my shipping. And I was spending an egregious amount of time trying to find my materials, the things that I use literally every single day, multiple times a day, because in the clutter of things and just the small space and having to move around a lot, I would set something down and it would get shuffled under something or dropped in a nook, or I would set it down and forget about it or whatever. So I've come up with my little system. In the past, I would have something similar, but I've never done this before. But I would have like basically a spot that I put everything, so that, and this happens in like, this is something I pulled from restaurant experience and stuff too, is that you can be highly efficient if you know exactly where something's at all times. So like in a restaurant, like all of your produce on the line is going to be in a very specific spot. Every day it's in the same spot. The limes are in the same spot. Tomatoes are in the same spot. All the dressings are in the same spot. Everything, every day is in the same spot. And when you leave at the end of the day, part of closing shift and what the manager or like your shift lead or whoever will come and check is that everything is in its spot. Like, and that the next morning, the morning shift has started to where everything they need to set up the line and get started is in its same spot. So, the best thing you can do for yourself is have a spot for everything. Well, it's not the best thing. Like, drinking water and exercising are probably the best things, but as far as like keeping up with your items and materials and things that you need, and if you want to get really efficient at packaging or even listing, have everything you need in a very specific spot. And at the end of your day, before you go home, it takes all of like 2 minutes, like not even that, to make sure that everything you need for the next day is back in its exact same spot. Pearls of wisdom. This right now is like a catch-all. I am going to actually, so the vast majority of this drawer and that drawer, I already have it, are hanging files. I have like the files that go in there, a whole box of them. That's going to hold most of my ephemera and like magazines and stuff, so that I can line them all up in there, and then I can like easily pull ephemera out without it getting shuffled around in a tub or a box or something and getting damaged over time. Because every time you're shuffling through and pulling things out, paper items are very likely to get like damaged, and it's also just really tedious and hard to find them. So that will be all hanging files, and I'll organize all my ephemera in there, with the exception of I'll probably have like 3 or 4 files where I keep a stash of different size like baggies and that type of thing. But right now, again, that's not, I'm holding back some of my ephemera at the moment because it's a long-term seller. They don't tend to sell very quickly. So that's one of those things I'm going to sort of slowly trickle in, like maybe towards third and fourth quarter, when I already have built up a really strong inventory, and I'm just going to start adding in those like 10 items a day of ephemera, because at that point the algorithms and the sales will be so strong that it's okay if I throw some longer term items in there. So that basically sums it up right now. This is probably something like a 7 by 10 or so space, around that ish. And it's extra complicated because it has the stairs coming into it. It's a lot. It's not a lot of space. It's a lot to work around, to be efficient in. But I do feel a lot better now. So I'm excited to see. I'm about to sit down and actually list. I already have like 50 items pulled. So I'm going to sit down and see how my listing works out and see if there's any kinks I need to sort of work out or decide on. And then tomorrow I'm going to see how efficient my packaging goes comparatively, which I think that is actually going to be the biggest benefit of this rearranging here. And I guess that's about all. I'm excited about the Highway 70 yard sale. I am going to actually hold on. I think that's about all. I can't think of much else to say. I'm excited about the Highway 70 yard sale. It was saying that it was going to rain, but it does look like it's pretty much going to be clear. Now that could change like at any moment around here, but it looks like it's going to be pretty sunny. Kind of hot, but pretty sunny. So I'm excited. We're going to see how that goes. And I'm just going to get back onto my listings and get my algorithms back up. I hope y'all maybe got some ideas from it, or I don't know, just enjoyed watching or hanging out or whatever. I will I think I have this one to post, and then I have like 2 more to post, and then it's probably gonna get to where I'm posting maybe within 2 days for the Highway 70 yard sale, because I've pretty much caught up on most of my videos. I think I'm like only 3 behind right now. So the good news is that y'all will see the Highway 70, not necessarily the day of, but you'll see some of that content pretty close to when I'm actually going. So you won't have to wait forever for that. I hope y'all have a good night. Y'all be safe this week, and I will see you next time.